Hello everyone, today I'm going to be critiquing Cenk and Anna on a video they did of the missile strike that hit a hospital in Gaza yesterday. My main issue with their video is that they mention a few times that they don't know who did it. But basically the entire video is them highly suggesting, if not straight up saying, that they think it was the IDF. I think this is irresponsible because, in my opinion, I believe that we do not know who did this. There is no evidence or facts that point to any specific person who did this. We don't know if it was the IDF or Hamas or the Islamic Jihad. So, I think it's important to be able to stay neutral and wait for the facts before we get to say who did this. I don't think that they did this. I don't think them doing what they did throughout this video, which I will demonstrate, was that good. But yeah. Also, I want to mention that I am a fan of Anna and Cenk. I do respect them. I don't want this to be a video that is of harsh critique, like I'm really jumping on them. I'm not. I just think this video wasn't the best, but yeah, that's really it. So yeah, let's get started.
The Al-Ali Baptist Hospital in Gaza City has been struck by an airstrike, killing anywhere between 200 to 500 people. Now, this was a hospital where injured Palestinians were recovering, but it was also a hospital that many other Palestinians were seeking refuge and shelter, thinking that it would not be targeted in any kind of attack. Now, the story is still developing and there are conflicting narratives about what actually transpired. And out of an abundance of caution, I will note that we should wait for an independent party to conduct an investigation, and we should not just believe what the IDF says, considering their track record of literally lying about certain instances of killing innocent people, including a Palestinian American journalist named Shireen Abu Akleh. But
now, my first sort of, it's not an issue, but it will be in the grand scheme of things, is this is sort of the start of it, where she mentions the lying of the IDF, but doesn't mention that Hamas has also lied in the past and is the ones blaming the IDF. Her framing here is that it's, such as in the title of the, or in the video, it says, alleged Israeli airstrike. Yes, it's alleged from their perspective of Hamas or the Palestinians, but there is zero evidence to suggest that it was an Israeli airstrike. This is, if this is coming from Palestine, and even specifically, possibly from Hamas, who was the original people to probably come out and scream that it was the IDF. But we don't know who. There's zero evidence of anybody. There's zero evidence of any particular group doing this.
Nonetheless, the IDF refuses to take responsibility.
Actually, I'm going to skip this part. All of this is stuff I agree with for the most part. Nothing Anna says during these few minutes is really an issue. Everything she says is fine. So I think we could skip that. It's not so much
on what's currently transpiring here.
So let me be clear. I don't believe the IDF. Oh, wow, what a big scandalous thing to say. Like in the old days in America, you couldn't say things like that. You couldn't even say, when we first started the Young Turks, that you don't believe the Pentagon. We would say that on air and people would be outraged. So why don't I believe the IDF? First of all, IDF has a history of hitting civilian targets, a lot of them, and always saying that it was an accident. Or it wasn't us, it was someone else. And so when you have a track record of doing it, that's relevant to the consideration. I also, that is what almost all of the government, different governments do when they make a mistake or they do something horrible, including our government. And I've seen the Pentagon do this exact kind of lie dozens of times, and we've shown it to you on the show. One that I remember very distinctly was when we bombed a wedding in Afghanistan. And the Pentagon comes out and says, no, we didn't bomb the. Are you saying that you trust the Taliban over the American government, right? Yeah, no, in that case, it's not about trusting the Taliban. It's about, no, you bombed the wedding. And later, of course, everybody confirmed that we bombed the wedding. You see, the reason the Pentagon, the IDF, and all the governments in the world lie to you in the beginning is to.
Okay, actually, let me stop there. The example that he gave already assumed the U.S. did it and was later verified. The issue is he is assuming first without any facts or verification. He said that there was an example of them bombing a wedding, I think, or what he said, and that everybody said, oh, you bombed it, but then afterwards it was proven. Well, that's exactly the issue here. People are saying that it is a particular group, whether people are saying it's the IDF who did it, or people are saying it was for sure the IDF or for sure Hamas. The problem is you are saying it was a particular person to begin with. His example is demonstrating this. This is a bad example, specifically in the context of determining who did this or who didn't, or how we should react to a strike when we don't know the information, right?
To basically neutralize how damaging that news story is, they do overwhelming propaganda and they send out their spokespeople and go, do you believe the terrorists? I've seen that trick 2,000 times over. That doesn't mean I don't have an open mind. Of course I have an open mind. If they prove that it was someone else, then we'll come out back here and tell you, oh, it turns out that mystery was solved and it was Islamic Jihad or something else. But for the moment being, it looks very much.
Okay. So Cenk's faulty in his thought here because, one, him saying he has an open mind leaves it so that he could later say that it was the Islamic Jihad or anybody else, Hamas, but is wrong in this. And he could just later say it was them, and that is the issue itself. Two, he is implying here that given his open-mindedness, he already is given culpability on who did it, and now he could just make a video later saying the facts of the matter, but people have already watched this video and misinformed and it's going to spread fake news, etc. So yes, that's my issue with that. Let's go next.
Or something else, but for the moment being, it looks very much like it's IDF. And by the way, well played on the propaganda, because it gets at least everyone, including us, to go, maybe it wasn't the IDF. Congratulations on propaganda, well done.
Now another issue here. Cenk says it is very likely that it is the IDF, but has zero evidence to that. His only claim to why he thinks that the IDF did this is because of the IDF's history of lying about attacks. Understand that credibility is not a fact basis on whether something is true. So claiming that he thinks it looks very much like it's the IDF is not based on any actual evidence or facts.
But we're going to look at all the facts and give you all the facts. I've got more reasons why I think it was IDF, but go ahead, Anna.
So one of the other excuses that we often see from the Israeli government and the Israeli Defense Forces is, well, we had to do the strike against the school that had civilians or the hospital that had civilians because Hamas is using Palestinians as human shields. They'll use that as a justification. And Cenk, you mentioned the Pentagon, which is an interesting thing for you to mention, especially since there is now a video going around on social media featuring the Pentagon spokeswoman. Her name is Sabrina Singh, and she is saying, and I quote verbatim, Hamas is the one putting Palestinians, those in Gaza, at great risk. They are putting command and control units inside hospitals. How about?
Okay, now I have an issue with this quote that she's using of Sabrina Singh because So while she is technically correct that she did say this, if you watch the moments after she says that, I will bring up the video.
Thank you very much.
If you bring up the moments after she says this, she goes on to sort of explain further about what she meant about this specific event, which was the missile strike that happened on the hospital. It's around here, I think.
Say, okay, we will now put in the restrictions.
Well, again, in relation to the report that you're referring to, I've seen the reports. I don't have any more details to provide at this time. I don't know who is responsible. We don't have all the facts, and I'm sure as we learn more, that will inform conversations. But right now, I'm not going to go down a hypothetical road of who is responsible for something. What I can tell you again is what the Secretary has been very clear on is that we expect Israel to uphold the law of war, and our priorities, our objectives in supporting Israel is making sure that Israel has what it needs through our security assistance, sending a continued strong message of deterrence that should any other actor think of entering the conflict, that they think again, and that we are being mindful and vigilant of any threats to our U.S. forces.
Now, Anna points to the fact that she said earlier, and this was her response, what she said right here to when I fast forward to the video, her response, the quote that Anna said, was just a couple minutes before this. So while it does seem like that's what she said, specifically in response to the attack on the hospital, and while she did say it right, she was asked that question about the hospital, and she did say that after, she goes on a couple minutes later to sort of, further her thoughts on that and how it's not specifically in terms of that specific attack on the hospital, which happened yesterday. She was talking more, like she said, broadly. You could say her original, the reason why she brought it up to begin with, after the person asked her the question specifically to do with the hospital, you could say, why would she bring it up there? And you could say, yeah, that was not the best of her to do. It could have, made people think that she was specifically talking about that attack of on the Ali hospital, excuse me. But she goes on a couple minutes later when someone asks her a question, and she sort of furthers her thoughts and clarifies. So while Anna brings up that quote, it doesn't really show the further context of her furthering her thoughts, where she goes on to say, I didn't mean it specifically to that attack. So I think that's also important. That's also important to like what she said and bringing up that quote, making it seem as though she is sort of justifying the attack when this is not the case.
Don't bomb the hospitals.
How about you just admitted that you did bomb the hospital, and now you're saying, well, they made us bomb the hospital. So make up your mind, America and Israel, the governments of those, not the civilians, but the governments of those countries. Do you have an excuse for why you bombed the hospital, or you didn't bomb the hospital? Which one is it? Because it's not both. It's not both. Why did you go out there and telling everybody, no, it's okay to bomb the hospital? It's okay. Are you saying it was okay for Islamic Jihad to accidentally bomb the hospital? Make up your mind. Make up which lie and propaganda you're going to go with.
Again, here's another video.
Fadi.
Or here's another video where someone asks her, the question about what she said earlier, which was about her mentioning the fact that they use human shields, and if it was about this specific attack. I guess I should play. I don't have the question and her response to this. Again.
Thank you, Sabrina. I just have one clarification of something you said, and I have another question. Okay. You said, I believe, that you saw the reports concerning the targeting.
I'm aware of the reports.
I'm aware of the reports about targeting the Baptist hospital, which is under the Episcopal Church in Jerusalem. But you don't have information on what happened. However, you felt the need to say that Hamas uses hospitals to have command centers. Why did you feel that you needed to put that in if it's not clear what happened there to you?
I wouldn't say that I was trying to conflate the two by any means. I was just trying to be specific, more specific on the fact that Hamas does integrate in high civilian populations and tries to set up command centers in places where should be used for innocent civilians to be treated, should be used for innocent civilians to seek medical care. I would not conflate or draw any type of comparison to the attack that I've only heard the reports. I don't even know where it is located. I'm getting information from you as I'm standing up here. So I really wouldn't draw the comparison. I was trying to show you that Hamas is willing to use innocent civilians as essentially human shields. That's exactly what we saw with ISIS. And so I would be really mindful of not trying to draw any connection there, as I don't have any details on the report that you're referencing.
And my
So again, this is even more clarification on her original comment that she made to the question asking about. So the original question, that the quote that Anna's referencing, is someone asking her about whether the U.S. should also be responsible in case the weapons that are used by the IDF are weapons is used in a war crime. And that's where she gave that quote. But again, she further clarifies that no, she was not saying that. She was just strictly talking in a broad sense about what they do. And again, you could have an issue on her original quote, but 2 minutes after that, she clarifies it. And then again, she further clarifies it even later on, such as in the video I just showed. So again, when Anna brings up this quote, I think it's a mistake. There's further context of her further explaining what she meant, and it wasn't specifically about this attack, which I think is very important. And so, also, like Cenk's, what Cenk said about the propaganda, or get it straight, again, she further clarifies, which makes what Cenk is saying here sort of meaningless and irrelevant. Actually, I wanted to mention another thing about something Cenk said earlier about the propaganda. I forgot to mention this. I guess I should maybe go back and rewind. This is around here.
But we're going to look at all the facts and give you all the facts. I've got more reasons why I think it was IDF, but go ahead, Anna.
So,
Or I think it's more.
I have an open mind. If they prove that it was someone else, then we'll come out back here and tell you, oh, it turns out that mystery was solved and it was Islamic Jihad or something else. But for the moment being, it looks very much like it's IDF. And by the way, well played on the propaganda, because it gets at least everyone, including us, to go, maybe it wasn't the IDF. Congratulations on propaganda, well done.
This is the point right here. So he says because of the propaganda, it makes us say maybe it wasn't the IDF. But this is not the case. We are saying that maybe it wasn't the IDF because there are no facts or evidence that shows who is responsible. To think this way as a news outlet is against what the news is all about. You are in part here to present facts, not make definitive claims with no facts or evidence. Remember, just as I mentioned earlier, that simply mentioning, their past or their credibility or anything like that is not a fact in and of itself to suggest that it was the IDF. That's not facts. That has nothing to do with facts. So, yeah, so I guess we could skip forward to this, back to where we were. Sorry, I just wanted to go back and mention that because that whole propaganda line and everything, saying that they're saying that just to make us go, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't the IDF. Let's say we don't know. That should be our neutral stance, that we don't know. It's not We don't need propaganda from either side. That the IDF same propaganda that's making us say, "Oh, maybe it wasn't them." No, we don't need that. That should be our opinion. Full stop. Doesn't matter who says anything. What if it's the IDF or Hamas or Islamic Jihad? Remember, it does not matter. The propaganda does not matter. Your stance should be neutral until the evidence comes out. Okay.
The story very closely since it broke this morning. And I noticed how it kind of played out on social media and how the reactions to the story by allies of Israel and members of the IDF, like how their reaction to it changed throughout the day. So at first, there seemed to be a lot of excuses in regard to Israel allegedly conducting this airstrike. A lot of claims similar to what you heard from the Pentagon spokeswoman, saying that, well, Hamas likes to use these areas and these places where you have a large number of Palestinian civilians, and they use them as human shields, just basically justifying the attack. But the media response to it was incredibly critical. So much so that I think that maybe, this is my read of it, and I could be wrong. I want to be clear about what we know in terms of the facts and what we're speculating on. This is what I'm speculating on. I'm speculating.
It's just good that she does clarify here. I don't think that Cenk does this enough. I don't think they might say it, but then they go on again to just point to the fact that it was the IDF's, so. But I do appreciate the fact that she's mentioning this again.
Israeli officials saw that the reaction and response to a possible Israeli airstrike on a hospital was a very negative one. All of a sudden, tweets got deleted and the narrative changed. All of a sudden, immediately, the IDF, which apparently did not have the intelligence necessary to prevent a Hamas terrorist attack a little over a week ago, had all of the information necessary to determine that they were clear of any wrongdoing. Interesting. Okay. I want to share some of the tweets that I'm referring to. So these are two tweets that have been deleted. One of them,
again, just what she said there, all has to do with being skeptical of what the IDF is saying, and as to why when they're saying this, based off their history, it seems like they are the ones who probably did it. But no mention from the Hamas perspective, where they also lie just as much. But they only mention purely from the perspective of the IDF and their lies, and why this is evidence that, or this is why they think that it is the IDF, which is, again, not good.
Features a Netanyahu-appointed digital spokesperson who.
I wanted to pause here really quick because I wanted to bring this up. This person, or rather I should just show the tweet. This person, close these. Actually, let me just
tweeted the following after the hospital suffered this strike. Breaking: Israeli Air Force struck a Hamas terrorist base inside a hospital in Gaza. A multiple number of terrorists are dead. It's heartbreaking that Hamas is launching rockets from hospitals, mosques, schools, and using civilians as human shield.
Okay, he did delete it, and Anna will go on to say that he deleted it, but it's important to note, important, it depends on if you think it's important or not, but I do think it's relevant to show this. He does apologize about the tweet. So, whether or not you care for his apology, it's up to you, but I do think it's relevant to be able to show that he did apologize. Whether you care or not, or put any stock in it, whatever. It's up to you.
Sounds like Israel bombed a hospital until it was inconvenient. And then all of a sudden, no, we didn't. It was the other dastardly Islamic Jihad that popped out of nowhere. Okay.
So that tweet was deleted. I wasn't even gonna bring it up on the show because I needed.
Okay, another thing. This person, I've looked them up. There is nothing that says that this person is a spokesperson appointed by Netanyahu to be his online spokesperson or whatever. I have not seen any evidence of that. The only thing that I was able to find was him maybe being a part of a media team for Israel, but I haven't seen anything about him being appointed by Netanyahu at all. There's nothing. So I don't know where Anna got this information. I couldn't find it. I looked. I didn't see anything. I only saw it from a couple tweets. That's it. But there weren't from any news source or anything. They were from just people on Twitter. Yeah, I don't know where she got this. Oh yeah, and so like I said before, putting any stock in what that guy said is dumb, because he's not a spokesperson. They're presenting him as though he's a spokesperson to be able to say, oh look, a spokesperson for Israel is coming out admitting that they did this, but he's not a spokesperson. He has seemingly nothing to do with the Israeli government, or has any ties specifically with the Israeli government where he would have any knowledge about any attack that they committed or any details or of anything. This guy there's nothing. This guy's just a random he's not random, but he's like a journalist or something like that. Not really, but yeah. So that doesn't make any sense. And then again, using this to say Israel is being unclear does not make any sense, given this guy has nothing to do with Israel.
Confirmation that this person actually did tweet this. There's a lot of misinformation going around. We have to be very careful, right? However, someone asked this individual, why'd you delete this tweet? And he did not deny deleting the tweet. He said, instead he deflected, saying, how about your friends in Al Jazeera that also deleted their tweet of accusing Israel? Al Jazeera published this tweet saying the IDF warned people. The IDF spokesperson called them out as liars, and they deleted their tweet.
In other words, you did delete the tweet, and you're trying to distract people with a rando comment about Al Jazeera. Who cares what Al Jazeera said?
Now,
again, you could say he was trying to distract, and he was trying to maybe spew propaganda in all of this. But again, he's not some spokesperson. He is not somebody who was, at least from the evidence that I've shown, appointed by Netanyahu personally or anything like that. This guy just posts about these issues seemingly. I looked on his Twitter account. There's nothing to show that he is. So again, bringing this guy up as though it's weird is you could bring up basically any random Twitter user and it would be the same thing. And again, also, he apologized. Yeah, while yes, he made this tweet. Okay, it's a dumb tweet, whatever. He does apologize for it later on. So again, put whatever stock you want in it, but he does. So.
Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, also deleted a tweet. I want to be clear that this tweet is from yesterday. You can see the date on it. It's October 16th. Today is the 17th. I say that because it's important to know this wasn't something that he tweeted out after the hospital was hit, but it gives you a sense of where Netanyahu's mind is. And it also gives you a sense of why he deleted it. Okay, so he wrote, this is a struggle between the children of light and the children of darkness, between humanity and the law of the jungle.
Are you
okay? My issue with this is they're talking about his state of mind in the context of the hospital incident. Only further points to the implicit blaming of the IDF for this incident or attack or whatever, because why else bring up his state of mind? If they are bringing up his state of mind as, its own individual, point or whatever, and maybe that's what she's doing, sure. But I think in the context of the video, talking about attacking a hospital and killing civilians, bringing up his state of mind, that it's, super against, just like sort of very, chaotic and sort of weird and evil even. To again, bringing that up in order to be able to sort of suggest, basically they're suggesting implicitly here, or maybe even explicitly, that, oh, you see, it was the IDF, because look at Netanyahu's state of mind. He would do something like this. Look at the way that he looks at the Palestinians, right? But again, this is an issue because you are, again, implicitly suggesting, or even explicitly suggesting that, you see, it does look like it was the IDF. It does look like it was Netanyahu who did it. Just look at his state of mind, right? Why? Just wait for the facts. That's what you're supposed to do. Doing this is just making it so that people look at it and think, yeah, I mean, it kind of does point to, I mean, look at his state of mind, and look at these tweets from some, person who has nothing to do with Israel. And it's like, everything is just build up to just why it's the IDF.
You kidding me? The Prince of Darkness said, get out of here. So this guy who's up on corruption charges, tried to ruin Israeli democracy, didn't do his job, let Israel get bombed. Hamas today is saying they were surprised at their success. They didn't want a broader war. You take Hamas also with the biggest boulder of salt that you could imagine. Don't get us twisted. We're not doing propaganda for either side, unfortunately.
By the way, I don't believe they're doing propaganda. I do want to say that. I don't believe. This is just a critique on their video.
Like some media, but some of the media actually has been pretty good so far here. So I don't take Hamas at face value at all, okay, at all. Their leaders are at least as much liars as any government in the world. But Hamas is saying now, at least, we don't want a broader. We're easy to say after you did your killings and now you're being attacked. I understand all of that. But having said that, they said they were surprised that how weak the Israeli defenses were. They were just going in to take hostages. They didn't know that they were going to be able to overwhelm Israeli defenses. Again, take it with a grain of salt, okay?
Okay, so this is quite an issue, because he goes on for basically a minute talking about, oh, grain of salt, grain of salt, grain of salt, but that's all they wanted was, so there is no grain of salt when it comes to them supposedly wanting to just take hostages, when we know what the reality was. They committed a terrorist attack on Israeli civilians. They did not go there with the intent of just wanting to get hostages and then realized halfway through, hey, this is easy. Let's massacre hundreds of civilians now. So while Cenk does bring up, but I am saying, take it with a grain of salt, we shouldn't trust Hamas. We shouldn't trust them. But then says, but they say what they wanted to do. Again, take this with a grain of salt, but what they did want to do was the hostages. That's it. That is patently false, because we know what they did. We know what the real intent was. The way that they executed this terrorist attack does not suggest at all, does not seem at all, and I'm sorry, you're just naive if you actually believe them saying that it could possibly be true. No, their purpose of the terrorist attack was to kill civilians. That was the point. That was the purpose. So even acting as though there's even a grain of salt to possibly give to them, based off of what they said about just wanting the hostages, is ridiculous. That is obviously not true. And Cenk should know that this is not true. But he goes on for a minute, kept saying, yeah, grain of salt, while if he were to be referencing the missile attack on the hospital, okay, fine, grain of salt. But specifically in terms of the attack that started all of this, there is no grain of salt to give. We know for a fact their intention was to commit a terrorist attack that would massacre innocent civilians. That's it. We know when they say that they just wanted to take hostages is absolutely not true. So I don't know why Cenk would say this. It doesn't make any sense.
But Netanyahu didn't do his job.
He did not.
Okay, they were not at all ready. They didn't have the intelligence. The military was not in a position to defend. Going on the offense is easy. You drop bombs on hospitals. They don't have Iron Dome. You do. You drop bombs on buildings. No one's disputing that they're dropping bombs on residential buildings. That part is easy, okay?
Yep.
Defending your people is hard. And he didn't do his job. And all he ever does is cause more and more conflict and war. When is Israel going to realize, and maybe the answer is soon, that the actual Prince of Darkness is Netanyahu? And that is in the context of, if you want safety for Israel, let alone if you care about being decent and humane to Palestinians.
That's exactly right. And look, I really want to emphasize that there's a lot of attention being paid to what happened to this hospital, considering the high death toll. And it's just jarring, it's shocking. But I would not put it past the Israeli government under the leadership of Benjamin Netanyahu, a far-right prime minister, to carry out an attack like this, given the brutality that Palestinian civilians have been facing in Gaza since the beginning of this latest war. So just to provide the receipts in regard to residential buildings being targeted, an airstrike in Deir al-Bala reduced a house to rubble, killing a man and 11 women and children inside and in a neighboring house, some of whom had evacuated from Gaza City. Witnesses said there was no warning before the strike. Also, shelling from Israeli tanks hit a UN school in central Gaza, where 4,000 Palestinians had taken refuge, killing 6 people and wounding dozens. The United Nations Palestinian Refugee Agency said. At least 24 United Nations installations have been hit in the past.
Okay, just again, to reiterate, this is, again, they're just bringing up examples of Israel doing this. They're not combating the opposing perspective of people saying that it was for sure the IDF or for sure Hamas. They're just giving it from the perspective of, oh, we don't know who did it, but again, brings up an example of the IDF doing an attack where they kill innocent civilians. That's all they bring up. Again, another example of this, right? This is all they're talking about, is perspective of, again, Israel does these things. They have done these things in the past. So, and it's like, okay.
Last week, killing at least 14 of the agency's staff. There is no precision. There are indiscriminate airstrikes taking place. The fact that there is a humanitarian blockade without any chance of food or water entering, the Gaza Strip, tells you everything you need to know about the lack of concern for human life, innocent civilians. You can't live without water. Water is life. They know that, and they are continuing with the blockade anyway.
Yeah.
Anna is making the same mistake Cenk has done. None of this is any evidence that Israel did this. But remember, the problem isn't merely mentioning this, but essentially building a case in the entire video. Maybe you might say not the entire video, but basically most of the video, almost the whole thing, only talking about Israel's history attacking infrastructure, but not talking about Hamas's history at all, giving the impression that, just like Cenk said, it looks very much like it's the IDF.
So look, guys, we'll sort out I don't want people walking away thinking that we know with 100% certainty. We just told you. We just told you. And here I'll add two more things, and then I'll summarize. Okay. Look, Mahmoud Abbas desperately wants to meet with Joe Biden to make his case. He's the leader of the Palestinians in the West Bank, not the Gaza Strip. Okay. And Biden is going to Israel, but Abbas pulled out from that meeting because of how outraged he was about the hospital strike. If he thought there was some percentage chance that it was not Israel, he wants that meeting with Biden badly. So it's possible he's wrong. It's possible that he's responding to local pressure, etc. But that is another sign.
He says we don't know for certain, right? He just said that. We don't know for certain. Anna even agrees. But purely points to evidence, quote, evidence, that it was Israel, while not actually providing any real evidence or facts. He pointed to the example of this guy backing out as though because of this occurred, it makes me think that Israel did it. Everything that they've said so far is all things that say, I don't know who did it, but this is why I think Israel did it. Again, for the third time or fourth time that they've done it in this video, none of what they said so far is actual evidence or facts. None of it. What he just said right now about this guy backing out is not evidence at all. Because remember, we're talking in the context of a missile strike. So again.
Third sign is, usually they blame each other back and forth, but there's some reasons why Hamas things can be verified. The fact that they said it's Islamic Jihad instead of Hamas, it could be true, like we don't know with 100% certainty, right? But to me, that's another sign of, well, if we say it's Hamas, it could be verified that it wasn't. So we'll pick a rando group and pretend that it's them.
Claiming it was another group would have no bearing of the verification process. This also makes no sense. He's saying because you could point to a different group, because they're going to point to a different group, they think, oh yeah, that's going to throw off the people trying to prove whether a missile hit us at a certain place and who did it. That's not dumb. The IDF pointing to the Islamic Jihad and saying, oh, it was dumb, is not going to make the people who fact checked and verify to going, oh wait, they said it was the Islamic Jihad, guys. Oh man, that threw us off. They said it was that, and that's not going to do anything. This has no bearing on the verification process of who did it. Nothing. So bringing this up as though this is one of the reasons why he thinks the IDF did this is ridiculous. This makes no sense.
Again, this is the propaganda that all governments do when they do something wrong, and they especially do it in the first 2 days because they want you to only remember the cloudy, I can't tell who did it, and then once it's passed out of the news cycle, then they can come back later and say, oh yeah, mistakes were made, who cares, etc. Right? So I'd be shocked if the IDF released evidence. But if they do, again, we'll come back out here and tell you, okay? And we'll make sure to do that. But okay, so.
But even so, I want to be clear that it's important to have an independent third party conduct an investigation, right?
Of course, and
I wouldn't believe it if the Islamic Jihad came out and said, no, we are not responsible for this. Like, you need an independent party to come out and do the investigation and figure out what's really transpiring. By the way,
again, they just described the issue with claiming someone did it when it wasn't them, but then proceeded to highly suggest it was Israel who probably did it the entire video, then say, well, we will tell you who did it once the facts come out, but right now, we're just going to merely suggest that it seems to be, and again, to quote him, it looks, quote, it looks very much like it's the IDF. But he talks about them trying to cloud the first couple days of, oh, we don't know who did it. It's not them clouding. it's not the media clouding. It's not anybody clouding. We don't know. They might not even know, right? Now you might say, oh, well, if they didn't do it, they know, right? But again, there are processes that take place. These things aren't instant. They're most of the time. They're not going to just release it after the first hour that this ends and be like, you say we didn't do it, and just start like, no, these things take time most of the time, right? These things take time. This is normal. So it's suggesting that because people are saying, oh, making it cloudy to not know who did. Well, yeah, that's the whole point. We need the evidence in order before we point. That's how it should be. It should be like that until we know. It should be, we don't know who did what. We don't know who attacked the hospital. That's how it should be. So he's saying this like, oh, they're trying to. What are you saying, Cenk? It doesn't make any sense. But okay.
There are all sorts of videos floating around the internet indicating that Israel has released footage showing that it was in fact a rocket from the Islamic Jihad. We don't know what time that video was taken. We don't know which part of Gaza that video was taken in. There's a lot of information that is missing from those posts. So just be very careful with what you believe.
By the way, there's also videos that show a sound that only the Israeli warplanes make, but I don't know that that's true either. I mean, just seeing a video on Twitter doesn't prove anything. So,
okay.
All right, now,
okay, so Cenk and Anna are right here, right? I agree with everything at the end that they said. Be cautious, be careful. We don't know anything. We don't know what's real. You look online, you look on Twitter. We don't know what's actually true. What is true or what's not true. We don't know yet. These things need to be verified. Okay, so I could agree with everything they said at the end here. The rest of this video is just Cenk talking. He talks about the occupation and stuff, but it's not what the main subject of what I wanted to talk about. So the ending of this really doesn't have, no point in. There's nothing that I want to talk about. So I guess just to summarize, this is, again, I think I demonstrated enough that what they did was they did say a few times, oh, yes, we don't know who did this. But then most of the video, I should say, the entire video, okay, maybe you'll call it an exaggeration, but the most of the video is them giving reasons as to why you should think that it was the IDF. And again, even Cenk himself says, quote, it looks very much like it's the IDF. And everything he said to be able to try to support why he thinks it looks very much like it's the IDF, none of what he said is facts. None of it. Zero. All of it had to do with credibility of the IDF and things that they brought up, such as this spokesperson who's not a spokesperson, and then the video of Sabrina Singh, or the quote of Sabrina Singh, where when you get the further context of her explaining what she said, she clarifies that she was not talking about the specific attack and doesn't even know really the details and much about the attack. So literally like a couple minutes after, and then she does it even later on again. So everything that they've so most of what they've said, or pretty much everything, has to do with them bringing up these reasons why they believe it's the IDF, or I should speak specifically for Cenk, because I guess Anna never specifically said it looks very much like the IDF. To be fair to Anna, right? She never actually said that. But with Cenk, to say that, but not mention anything. Everything is just conjecture. It's all just what he thinks. But again, in a video, their first video specifically talking about this yesterday has to do with him saying these types of quotes, saying that it looks very much like the IDF. And in doing almost 20-minute video, where most of the 20-minute video is them giving the reasons as to basically insinuating that it was the IDF. Again, saying, oh, it's the credibility of the IDF is not good, and they've done these things in the past. Therefore, hello, like they do have a dodgy history of this. So in some of the times that they I think. Let me see my notes. Sorry. Yeah, but okay, I lost one of the things I wanted to bring up again. But yeah, I think I mentioned everything. I think they did not go about this the best. I think they should have been way more neutral. I think a lot of the things that they mentioned in this video gave sort of a bad impression to the people watching, that made it seem like it was the IDF when there's no evidence of it. And so I think that's an issue, and I think that's worth criticizing. I think they did enough of that in this video to be able to, that is worthy to make a video of it criticizing it, at least I think. And again, this is not nearly as bad as some of the other lefties out there that have straight up said that it's the IDF, that has or even to the other people who said it's straight up Hamas too. They're again, let's not confuse it. They've these people also are in the wrong, 100%. But specifically talking in terms of the people on the left that are talking about the IDF, again, this video is not nearly as bad as some other people. But again, I do think this video is flawed enough to critique it and post a video on it. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So thank you for watching. I know, I also want to mention, I know it's a little scattered, it's long. It's my first video, so it's not the best. I kind of went back, here and there and everywhere. My thoughts weren't all like right now, my thoughts aren't all in a nice sort of way, but okay. I guess I'll get better hopefully over time. So yeah, thank you for watching.